Hey, what's up, guys? Here on the Fire Sports Pod, where everything we got is hot. I'm your host, Zack Jackson. Here we got our co-host, Irv, back at it again with another podcast. And we got a special guest for us today, Professor John McCarthy from Montclair State University. Appreciate Professor McCarthy for you coming on today. And let's get the show on the road.
Okay, I'm glad to be here.
All right, so we're going to be going over a couple segments we have for you guys. We're going to be going over some MLB talk when it comes to the injury bug that we've had in the MLB for a while now. What does Professor McCarthy and us think that the MLB could do different to maybe try to change that? If it could be changed, as well as maybe the Mets and Yankees and how the trade with Juan Soto will work out for both those teams. Our second segment will go over the NBA with the Lakers and Luka. Get some perspective with Professor McCarthy to see what his thoughts are on the trade and how does all these moving around, these big players, do for the NBA? Is it good? Is it bad? The third, we'll be going over men's college basketball. Right now, the new AP rankings have St. John's really high up in the top 5 rankings right now. So we'll see where Professor McCarthy and us think St. John's can go and can they compete in the tournament with the top teams like Auburn and Duke. And then finally, we're going to start off with this. Professor McCarthy is going to give us a little rundown on how Montclair State University is doing, and they're on a track to could potentially win it all. We don't know. So, Professor McCarthy, I'll have you take the throne and to talk a little bit about Montclair State University basketball.
Okay, thanks, Jack. First off, this was a banner year for Montclair State basketball. The men won the conference, and then they won the conference tournament, and their coaches were selected coaches of the year. The women got knocked off after a 22-4 record by TCNJ, but they went down there the other night and knocked them off, so they are tournament champions. So both tournaments were won by Montclair State, and both schools had their coaches recognized as coaches of the year. The women's bracket will probably come out tomorrow, but the men's bracket came out today, and it's a real treat to see 4 teams from the NJAC make the tournament. It shows you what kind of respect that the league has throughout the country. The men, I think, I've seen them a couple times, and I think they can run a little bit into this tournament. Number one, they have some really good players. They have speed. They don't have as much height, but they have guys that can defend. They run and press for 40 minutes, and they have depth. They have 11 guys that they run in and out. And I don't think that any other team can run in and out for 40 minutes like they do. And Coach Potts has done a really good job installing this system. I think the hardest thing that anybody has to do is count the minutes that players play, because they're in for 3 minutes and they're out. They're back in for 3 minutes and they're out. He substitutes so liberally. And the thing that I admire most is that he trusts the second team and maybe some of the third team guys. He doesn't yank them out when things start to go a little bit. He leaves them on the floor. Now he'll bring back Mike Jackson, and he'll bring back Kieran Flanagan. Kieran stays on the floor most of the time. And they picked up this kid, Morales, who had gone to Rutgers as a walk-on, and he's the leading scorer, and he made first-team all-conference. So they're set now. They open up Friday at home. I think they had the 5:45 game, and they're the number 1 seed in that region of 4 teams. If they win, they'll play Saturday at 5:40, I think it is. And then from there, they would move on.
Gotcha. Well, I definitely would have to agree when you said type of a liberal type of coach. You don't really get that at the collegiate level. It's very hard to get those type of coaches that can trust the back end of their bench or the back end of their players to the point where they don't yank people. In high school nowadays, that's been the whole case scenario. That as a coach, a young coach that I'm trying to change is that the fact that you got to let them play. You can't really just yank them for one mistake or one bad shot, because then they're never going to be able to learn from that. Do you agree, Professor?
Totally. One of the things that I teach in my class that you were in is the next play mentality. I think if we stay with basketball, if you take players out, it can't be for missing shots. Because if I take a shot and I know I'm coming out, and then the next time, either I'm not going to take a shot or I'm going to hesitate. Now, you can take me out when you think I'm fatigued, when I'm not in the right place, if I am not where I'm supposed to be defensively or I'm not rebounding, but you can't do that offensively. If I throw passes away, okay, let me throw two away because nobody's perfect. But I think one of the things that most coaches are going for now is that next play mentality. You can't do anything about the play that just happened. I missed the shot. I missed the free throw. I think coaches sometimes harp on the misses instead of just saying, okay, move on, move on. And I think that's a philosophy that Montclair State men have. I think the women have it as well. They miss a shot, they don't care. They come back, they press, they play defense, and then the next time they come down, whoever's the first guy that's open for a three, bang. So I think that's one of the things that you, as a younger coach, has to learn. When I started out, I was really more concerned about winning than developing players. And so if I saw people, who missed a couple shots, I would yank them. And that's not really the way a kid can develop confidence. They have to know that, okay, make the next one, make the next one. So, and I think it's the same thing probably in every sport.
Gotcha. Now, Irv, what do you think on that?
So, I was just gonna add that usually, especially when I play we have like our own little rec league that we have at Montclair with all the commuters and stuff. And there are times where people they will take a bad shot, or they don't like when a teammate takes a bad shot, when knowing that there's another person open for the extra pass. Instead, he takes it on his own and he takes the shot up. What I always preach is this: you take a bad shot, that's okay. It's basketball. It's sports. It's going to happen. Run back and play defense. That's it. Because if you stay there, you're sulking around with your head down. It's not going to help, because guess what? They get the ball. They score on the fast break. So what I always preach, especially if I'm on a basketball team, don't sulk. Don't get upset, because guess what? A play is a play, and we can't do nothing about it. We can't reverse time. Whatever happens, happens. Don't sulk about it, because the game is still continuing, and we move on. And I think nowadays, especially I feel like in the professional level, there's just this, I'm trying to explain it, where the star player gets upset because a role player messed up a play, or because a role player couldn't execute, the play right. Then the star player goes like this. The body language, you could just see how they're just visibly upset. And then that's why there's certain leaders, there's certain roles where people, they have to step up and be like, listen, it was a bad play, but we move on. We move on, we play defense, and we move on with the game.
One of the things that you were mentioning, I don't mean to cut you off, but
no,
one of the things that you mentioned, college coaches are big in recruiting on body language. They don't want to see anybody slouch. The reason that people slouch is because they feel sorry for themselves. It's not about the team.
Correct.
It's about them personally. And I think maybe in the NBA, those guys get upset when they don't get enough shots. And some other guys are taking what they consider to be too many shots. So it's different on a high school and a college level. A coach can take people out. In the pros, they don't really do that. They have rotations that they stick with. And they wouldn't be there if they couldn't shoot.
Exactly.
So I think it's more about the minutes than whether or not they make good plays in the pros. In high school, I think coaches are too quick to yank players out when they make a mistake. And that's almost in every sport. But I think where you're playing, Irving, it's really hard because you don't have an adult coach per se. And so you guys are trying to police yourselves. So I think what you say to them is, Zach, that's okay. Just get back on defense. Or you just say, when you take a timeout, listen, I don't expect everybody to make the shots. But if you miss and you're not back on defense, then somebody's going to take your place.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I would have to, a good example would be, and again, LeBron has has excellence throughout his entire career, but one of the plays that I really did not like was when J.R. Smith made one of the worst boneheaded moments in probably NBA history, where he got a offensive rebound off a missed shot in the 2018 Game 1 Finals when LeBron had like 50. And they were going up against Golden State and Kevin Durant. And it was Game 1. They were in it. George Hill's on the line. He's got 2 shots. He makes 2. They're up by 1. He made 1. They're tie game. He gets the rebound over Kevin Durant. He pulls it out instead of passing the ball or shooting the ball and going up with the layup. LeBron goes to the bench and asks Ty Lue did we have a timeout? And no one wants to answer him because they know they did. So they said, yeah. And he goes like this and like falls in his chair. And the crazy thing about it is that LeBron never scored a point in overtime. So I think it's a great example for what you guys were both saying, is that about sulking and understanding the game itself. Okay, he made a bad call, but there's no reason and no excuse to say that you can't come out in overtime and dominate still.
Well, the only difference that would be is you're talking about a professional player. And with that, Zach, there's money on the line.
That's true.
So if you're playing dumb and you don't know to call a timeout, I remember the play. I remember it exactly.
Yeah.
And JR, who, by the way, is from Newark and played all of his basketball in Jersey, he did make a mistake. So when LeBron is a perfectionist, especially early on in his career. Right now, he'll let a lot of things go because he's older. But initially, I mean, he was a perfectionist. And this is a guy that spends $1 million a year on his body. And so he doesn't want people throwing away his paycheck.
Yeah, so you're not wrong.
That's what that was about. But a lot of coaches, I remember when Irving Meyer was coaching in college, and I forget the acronym that he used, but there was no pouting, no excusing, and no blaming. And I teach that kids in my class that they should teach their players, when you come out, the only thing I want to hear is, yes, coach. Even if I'm wrong, that's all I want to hear. I'm not going to have a debate with you on the sideline, okay? If I berate you, then you have a right to come at me. But if I take you out because you make a mistake and I turn around and you're pouting on the bench, you're not getting back in. You're not, because that tells me, just like the guy who pounds his chest or puts 3 fingers up, that's about him. That's not about the team. One of the things I like about women's sports is they're starting to, but generally they don't do that. You watch a women's game, somebody will make a 3-pointer, they turn around, run back, and they play defense. In guys, even in high school or even in college, they make a 3 and there's a little showmanship to it before they go back on defense. And to me, any of those actions, you're pouting, you're blaming, you come off to the sideline and you say, Coach, not my fault. Zack didn't run the right pattern. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. All I want to hear is, Coach, I'll get the next one. That's all.
No, definitely. And I would have to say, Professor, I definitely took everything you said from that class that we had freshman year. I teach my kids and I tell people, even as an assistant, sometimes that I'm in the role of, I tell everybody on the bench, do not pout. Do not let me see you saying whatever. I don't want to say, yes, sir. I don't want to hear yes, this. I want to just hear yes, coach. And again, if they're starting to laugh about it, I'm like, no, it's serious. This is where you want. This is proper etiquette. This is proper sports. You have to talk to me as that I'm a professional. I'm the coach. You're the player. That's how it's got to be. So I definitely took everything that you said. I took everything from that class into what I do now. So
the only thing I would say to you is, especially in coaching, the only way you can punish a kid is less playing time.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're going to keep pouting, Irv, you know what? You're going to sit. Until you can show me that you're more interested in the team than your own personal struggles, you're going to sit.
Yeah.
And that's the only, I do that with everything. I don't make people run. I don't do anything other than that. You take away a person's playing time, high school, college, pro, And that's the thing that stings the most.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think, Professor, you had your fair share of those kind of moments, being a coach for many, many years, and also in different professions as well. I would imagine.
Yeah, I've had them. But
Mm.
one of the things I should say is you don't want to bury a kid. If a kid makes a mistake and they come out and their initial reaction, Irv, is like their shoulders are slumped or so on, you can turn around and say, pick your head up. If they don't pick their head up, that's when you have an issue. I mean, nobody wants to admit that they made a mistake or that they had to come out of the game. So you can't bury a kid, but that doesn't mean that you still don't use playing time. That's the only leverage that you really have as a coach.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah.
Definitely. So we're gonna transition. Since we're talking about basketball, why not just transition right into men's college basketball? Now we're gonna go to D1. Where obviously the bracket this year is going to be nuts. I mean, we've already been seeing the crazy wins. It feels like anybody, even the teams that are not ranked, even last night, Illinois absolutely trampled number 15 Michigan by 20. So I think it's crazy to say that most if not all the teams in the condensed version that have over like 10 wins, over 15 wins, can really beat anybody. I mean, it's very close this year. Now, what are your thoughts, Professor, when it comes to like the St. John's? After last year, they were okay last year. There were a lot of inconsistencies. Their defensive schemes were a little off. I didn't like the way Rick Pitino was putting out the offense. I just think they had a lot of size, but they didn't have a lot of good shooting. And there was only like maybe one primary guy. And if you shut him down, it was really kind of it. Do you think St. John's has a chance to really compete with like Auburn, Duke, or is it more like, all right, they're playing good, but they're not on that level? What would you say to that?
Well, first, let's go back to last year.
Mm-hmm.
Those were not his players. And if you remember, he called them out in a press conference that they were soft,
yep,
they weren't hungry, and so on. And those guys are gone. College basketball right now, you could really call it the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to predict. I'll give you an example. Seton Hall is very poor this year.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because their best guard decided to go to St. John's, Richmond. And he's playing extremely well for St. John's. And at one point when he was interviewed, he said, listen, I love Seton Hall. I love the coaching. I love the players. But there was way more money in St. John's.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that's one of the reasons between the NILs and the portal. The portal might even be worse than the NILs.
I would have to agree with you on that one. I think so too.
So when you see a team that one year, they're mediocre, and the next year, look who transfers in. Now I like Peichel. He's done a good job at Rutgers, but now he's getting slammed because he's got two players that are number 2 and number 3, probably in the NBA draft.
Yeah, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey.
Okay. They're a donut offense, if you understand what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's on the exterior. They don't have anybody inside. Okay?
5 out, basically.
Well, last year they had Omanura inside. He led the Big East in block shots and rebounds. Well, he left to go to Alabama. And now I'm sure Alabama gave him more money than Rutgers.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's really hard to tell. In the past, you had to wait until you could develop a team. Right now, you can be lousy one night, and if you have enough money, you can be great the next. I have a feeling, and I hope it's not true, but I have a feeling that Shaheen Holloway is going to bounce this year. And I'll tell you why. He still has some money in the bank, figuratively, for what he did at St. Peter's. He's not going to go off of what he's done at Seton Hall. And the problem for him is Seton Hall cannot compete financially with the NILs and so on as other teams. Now, why did St. John's get good? First of all, you have to look at Pitino's track record.
Mm.
The first year he went to Providence, the first year he went to Louisville, the first year he went to Kentucky, not so good. The second year, when players bought into his system, they made the tournament. You know, he's the only coach who has taken 5 different teams to the NCAA tournament, and he's won twice. So that has to tell you that when he gets players, I mean, he's got 700 plus wins. But this year, he got a team together that complement each other. And I think the guy's name is Lewis. He's a stud. He might only be at St. John's for 1 year. And then you bring in Seton Hall's best player. Now, instantly, you're better. Now, what are they doing this year? They're getting great play out of everybody. If you can be number 1 in the Big East, which is, if we would have to admit, a little bit off this year.
Yeah.
There's really no powerhouse. I would think Auburn and Duke will make a run in the tournament. Connor Flagg is just an incredible player for Duke. If you watch him, he's the number 1 player in the country. He'll be the number 1 player in the draft. He's got a Durant-like game already. And everybody is on him. They have enough players. Can he carry them? Who knows? NC State beats people on some nights. Arkansas won last night when they weren't supposed to because they have Calipari. So it's really hard to predict. In the past, one of the things that you could predict, everybody would say, well, why was there always an upset with the 12 and the 5? Or some mid-major every year. Why would that happen? Well, it's because those teams have players who stay for 4 or 5 years. Loyola Chicago a couple of years ago with Sister whatever her name was rooting them on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, they get to the Final Four. Why? Because those guys were 23, 24, and they've been playing with each other for 4 solid years.
Yeah.
Whom are they playing against? They're playing against this great talent, but he's 18.
Yeah.
Or he's 19.
They're not bigger.
Right.
So,
and he's a one and done guy.
Yeah.
And they don't have the maturity that these other teams do. Now, take that and erase all of it because you can't do that. Isn't it interesting that Saban, Krzyzewski, St. John, Villanova's coach, Jay Wright, they got out of coaching. Why?
Because it doesn't make sense.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, Zach, because they don't want to play this game.
Yeah, but that's what I meant. Like it just does it to them. It doesn't make sense to keep coaching while they're getting older in this type of game where you can't develop players anymore.
Right.
Because they're gone. They're either to the NBA or they're out of your team and they're going somewhere else.
Well, how did Jay Wright win 2 championships with a Villanova team without a real top 5 player in the country? What he would do is he would bring a guy in and he would redshirt him. That's an anathema now. If you tell a kid that you want him to redshirt, he's on the next bus or plane out of there.
Yeah.
So he would redshirt the kid, and then he would practice with him. They were sure that he could do the college work and balance it with basketball, and he played in the system for 4 years. That's why they won twice. They can't do that now because they're not, first of all, they're not as good. They're not as big a program, even though they won 2 NCAA titles. They're not as big a program as the Alabamas, as the LSUs, as the Dukes, as the Auburns. So he knows they can't compete. Even Krzyzewski, they don't want to go out anymore, these older coaches, beat the bushes and say, and beg some kid to come. You know what one of the questions is that coaches are asked right now when a kid makes a visit? The parents ask, are we going to get front row seats? You think anybody asked Dean Smith if they were going to get front row seats? That's the level that has gone to. And remember, it's a rarity that a kid shows up at 17 or 18 and he's not a fine. These kids have been playing to AAU ball since they were 10 years old.
Yeah.
And the coach, I remember somebody saying it last year, in your state, if you don't know the 7th graders, you're behind the curve.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. I mean, especially nowadays, because 7th graders nowadays are like nuts too. They're like, I don't know what the generation is getting fed.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, I went to Made Hoops with my squad over the summer. I'm looking at like 7th graders. I'm like, they're like almost 6 feet. I'm like, what are we looking at right here? Like, it's not even just the money. It's not even the NIL. The way these kids are like, I don't know, I don't know what they're eating. I don't know what they're getting fed, because they're tall as hell. They're bigger. They're stronger. I remember at 7th grade, you'd be lucky to see somebody over 5'6".
And they'll be considered like the tallest person.
That would be considered the tallest person in the school. And now you're looking at it. I'm walking into like my brother's school, and I'm looking at these kids. They're like 5'9", 5'10", 6 foot. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Well, one point I would make about that, Zach, is the point guard for Montclair State can't be any more than 5'6", and he is lightning quick.
Oh, yes, I've seen.
And he's got a really good mid-range jumper, and on the ball pressure is just outstanding. He was the rookie of the year this year. And
wow.
To go back to what you were saying, South Carolina in women's basketball has been a powerhouse. Okay.
Yeah.
Last year, their best player, when they asked the coach about the kids' development, she said that this young lady has been going to her basketball camp since she was in the 5th grade. So that's one of the ways that they bring players along. And also, you know this, success breeds success. People want to go to schools where they're going to be playing in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
It's hard to recruit a kid to a school. The only reason you get a kid at a school if they haven't gone to the NCAA tournament is that person can be the big dog. He's not going to another place because he's not going to be the big dog. He's going to be the 3rd scorer, maybe the 4th scorer.
Yeah.
But you go to a lesser school, like maybe in the MAC tournament, where he can be the player of the year. So that's another decision that people are doing. And the people I feel sorry for, you don't really know this. I know college coaches. The people who are in the most difficult place right now are freshmen coming into college. Unless you are an out and out star, like the 2 kids from Rutgers or the guy Flag from Duke, they're not on you as much. And they're feeding into what they're going to do in the future. And so those kids don't get as much attention. They don't get the same NILs. So that's why they want to go to another school. And how can you compete with a school? I mean, I don't understand why USC every year or UCLA isn't the best college basketball team in the country. They're out on the ocean in Southern California. They got all kinds of money. There's Hollywood right there. The lure of that, even a small school out there could do well. One of the reasons that they do well, it's hard to recruit a kid to Missouri. You know, you're going to be in a hurricane place or a tornado place. It's really cold in the winter. And geography is now having a lot to do with it. The last thing I'll tell you, I was in a PT situation, and there was a young man there who was from a very good school, Rutgers Prep. And I said to him, well, where are you going to go to school next year? And his answer was, wherever I get the most money.
Hmm.
Now, you know, that was not the first thing people used to say before.
No, it was not.
They would say, you know, I'm going to go someplace where I can do the schoolwork, where I can get a good degree, and where I can play.
Exactly.
They want to play. But now it's
all about the money.
Yeah.
So I really think it is all about the money. I don't even think it's really about. Obviously, they want to make it to whatever the case is, but it's really gone down to where, like, I have a kid on my I'm not going to disclose the name, but I have a kid on my team, and he's like in 8th grade, or 7th grade going into 8th grade, or 8th grade going into freshman, and every time he comes to the thing, and like he could be joking, this, that, and the other thing, but it's like it comes to show you how much these kids care about. It's not, oh, who we got, or what's my matchup, or what's the game plan. It's, oh, I got to tell my coaches that I got offers to go to this school, to this school, to this school, to that school, or I got offers to go to this AAU squad, or this, that, and the other thing. Like, kids are worrying about too much stuff, and it might just be just the social media, internet. That's definitely what it is. But at the same time, it's also parents. Like, I had one of these parents told me, like, my kid wants, like, in the future, I want my kid to go to D1 and in the NBA. I'm like, I literally wanted to tell her, like, lady, your son is good, but why are you worrying about that right now? He's in 7th grade. Why are we worrying about putting this expectation that this is where you want this kid to go, and tell him that this, that, and the other thing, when he can't even use his left side of his body?
Right.
He can't finish left. He can't do whatever. I don't understand. And I think it's the parents as well. It's not even just the players. I think the parents come into the, like, oh, my kid, when they're, if they're playing basketball, they're playing football. Oh, they're going D1. They're going to the NFL. They're going to the NBA. They're going to the NHL. Like, can we, you can strive for them to get there, but why are we, like, out of the bloom saying that he can do this, he can do that, when you're not on the squad. You're not going to camps with Steph Curry. You're not going to camps with this. You're not going to the camps with the New York Knicks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not doing these special things. So how the hell are you going to tell me that your kid can go to the D1 and the NBA when he can't even finish on his left side of his body?
Well, there's a simple way to measure these things, Zach. Number one, watch a kid who comes with new sneakers all the time.
That's not. No, I didn't realize that. That is a good idea.
They're not buying them.
Oh, hell no.
Okay. I saw a kid who was in 7th grade a couple of years ago. He ended up going to Louisville. It didn't work out. I saw him play during the summer, and he walked out with 3 boxes of Adidas shoes. He was big. His name was Calendar. I think he came from either St. Patrick's or Elizabeth. I'm not sure. The other way is, what I would say to a parent is, how do you know where a kid could play? And I would always say, who's recruiting him? Is he getting letters from Division I schools? No. If he's not getting letters from Division I schools, guess what? Right now, he's not a Division I player. There are no secrets in Division I. None. Especially with these camps, the top 50 player camps and so on. The Adidas camps, the ABCD camps, and so on. These coaches get a chance to see everybody. If your kid is only getting letters from a Division III coach or coaches, then that's the level that he probably should play on. Now, in defense of the parents, there's a lot of cash cows out there. People will say, you know, we come to this camp, we can get X number of people, the college coaches, to look at your kid and so on. Well, they can look at them, but they're not going to guarantee them anything. And they need to know that high school coaches don't give scholarships. Yeah. I mean, you could say to a coach, you know, I think you'd like Zack's game. Maybe you can come and look at him. But you can't assure him of anything. So who's recruiting the kid is the first way to find out whether or not that kid could play on the next level. And I've heard that from college coaches.
Gotcha. Yeah, that I will take into that. I will definitely say if I ever get that response from a parent before, because I had to say something because the kid one was just being a disrespectful to not just the team, and as well as to me. So I was like, all right, well, we're not going to fly with this.
Right.
And I straight up told the parent, I was like, yo, if he's not going to be respectful, then you're just not going to look at him playing that much, because I'm not going to put somebody that's disrespectful and doesn't care about the team and just cares about himself on the floor. And I'm not going to do it. Oh, well, that. I have aspirations for this. I have aspirations for him to be here. I'm like, okay, well, we're not talking about that. I'm talking about discipline. I'm talking about the understanding the rights and the rights and wrongs in the sports and life in general. Why are we talking about the NBA and college and D1 basketball? You know what I mean? So I just think that, like you said, I would agree that just parents blow stuff out of proportions. And
well, hopefully you don't say to the parents, "Yo," as your first word, because that's
obviously not.
That's not going to help you.
Yeah, no, that won't help me.
To give them a little bit of slack, nothing has increased as exponentially as college tuition. Boston College is probably $92,000 now.
That's ridiculous.
Monmouth used to be 55. Now it's like 65.
Goodness gracious.
Monmouth.
Yeah.
So
I applied for that actually when I was in college.
Where are you going to get that money? And especially if you have multiple kids. So here we go back to cash cows. If you get a coach in a youth league, a rec league, or whatever, especially AAU, and the coach says anything to a kid, like you have real potential, a parent jumps on that. If a coach says, listen, you should just concentrate on basketball, forget those other sports. What do parents hear? I'm getting a scholarship.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what they're hearing.
They jump really quick.
Think about it. You're at, let's just say, University of Maryland. My three knucklehead nephews all went to the same school.
Yeah.
And back then it was 26. It's probably 50 now. So you have three of them. You have $150 nut to crack. And that's just for 1 year. So we can't really get on these parents entirely. I could say, listen, and I think what you would say is, listen, I hope that happens for your son. Right now, we're just concentrating on his development. And I used to tell parents, if your kid is the best player on the team, you're not the best parent. If your kid is the worst player on the team, you're not the worst parent. This is all about the kid. And the only thing that you can do for your kid is he coachable. That's what I want to know. Is your kid coachable? Because that's a reflection on how you were brought up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The kids that are talking smack to you are doing the same thing at home, or their parents are putting so much pressure on them. You know, you're really good at this, and if you keep working at it, a lot of them haven't even played themselves, so they can't really gauge whether or not a kid is good. Kid has a basket in the back of his house, and he's shooting there, and he's making it all the time, and mom is looking out the window and saying, damn, he never misses. Yeah, well, nobody's guarding him either. So, you know, and the other thing that happens, you talk about transition. You might be the best. You might be the best player in grade school, especially in a regional school. Well, now you go to high school, and you're bringing in kids from different regions in the town, and they're all the best player. So when you talked before about college, Zach, you might be the best player on your high school team. When you go to college, all of those players were the best players on their team. They're not recruiting the last three guys on the bench.
Yeah.
they're recruiting guys sometimes they haven't even seen, but they've been recommended, or they make first team All State. That they read that.
Yeah.
Or if they're in the McDonald's All American game, they get to see them.
Yeah.
So it's hard to blame parents. I blame coaches who, especially AAU, who want to make money and want their program to develop, and they start giving a false hope to get the parent to stay involved. And the parent just sucks it up and they think, okay, let them go. And what they don't know is college coaches prefer multiple sport athletes.
Yes.
Yeah, they do. The athleticism is it's just better especially if you're an athlete that plays multiple, like football and basketball at the same time.
What they want to see is how competitive are you?
Yeah, exactly.
And they want to see how do you handle failure. Do you know the 3 questions that coaches asked when I was at Montclair High School? Whenever a coach would come in, Shiano, Kelly from Notre Dame, they asked the same 3 questions. What kind of kid is he? How are his grades? And are his parents a pain in the ass?
Yeah.
Those are
because those are important questions.
They already know the kid can play. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at your school.
Exactly.
I've known college coaches that have gone so far as to ask the custodians, you ever have a problem with this kid? Because remember, if you're a recruiter and you don't see progress in your team in a very short time, because you brought those people in, you're going to be out of a job.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And I'm also glad that I think COVID is done. I'm tired of seeing guys that are in their 6th and 7th year and at their 3rd school.
Thank you.
And you're not going to, as long as you have that, they go to the free throw line. And he was at Carolina last year. He started at Kentucky, and now he's playing at Louisville. I can't. I watch the game. I have a hard time rooting for any team because I know it's so corrupt.
No, it's getting bad, but yeah, no, definitely college basketball this year for the March Madness is definitely going to get definitely going to bring eyes, a lot of eyes.
They'll bring new teams. Look at Kansas is struggling.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Like a lot of teams that are usually UConn as well. Right. They're probably not going to. They might not make it.
Hurley just told all these other teams, "You better not forget about us." He just issued that warning to all of the other teams.
Man, I love his mentality. I mean, although his back's against the wall, I just think, I mean, some people are saying he should have taken that Lakers job, even though JJ Redick's doing a good job.
I'm happy with JJ Redick right now, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So, but I just feel like for his type of mentality, he is fit to coach at the college level because of his tenacity, because of his hardcore. Just him being hard on the kids. He can't be hard on professionals that have been in the league for almost like 10, 15 years. They're just going to look at him and be like, yo, are you serious? And it's going to cause a lot of tension within the locker room.
He would have to change the way he is.
The last 2 years on the Connecticut campus, and we don't know exactly how much money he was making, but it's more than is announced, okay? He walked on air. Back-to-back national championships. Mm-hmm. College, it's about the coach. The pros, it's about the players.
Yeah, absolutely.
Magic Johnson got a coach fired. Michael Jordan got a coach fired. The best players get coaches fired. The league is about the players, not the coaches. But in college, a lot of guys who are in the pro, they don't want to get involved in recruiting. Okay, I understand that. But a lot of guys who transition from college to the pros, they don't make it. Pitino came back. Brad Stevens came back. So most of them, it's a different thing how you deal. When you're on campus as the college basketball coach or a college football coach, you're a king. What do you think it's like for Day. All right, take a look at the guy from Ohio State, for instance. They were going to fire him because he lost to Michigan for the third time.
Ryan Day, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Okay, he wins the national championship, and he doubles his salary, and they increase his length of his contract. And guess what? Next year, if they lose to Michigan, they'll be bitching again.
Yep.
Yeah.
How it rolls.
Can't disagree more.
That's how it rolls with everybody like that. All the top coaches. But to finish out our last segment, I think I'm gonna hold off on the MLB. I think Billy's coming on, Professor, on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna talk some MLB. I just want to strictly stick it to basketball.
Well, give him hell.
Oh yeah, I got you.
The one thing I would just say about the MLB and as it impacts, what we're seeing now is things are coming down. When you're paying a player $750 million
Goodness gracious.
to play baseball, that's more money than the town budget of 5 towns that surround where you live.
Yeah.
Okay. So now there was never payment for college kids before. They're moving to giving $20 million to each Power 5 school, and then they're going to amortize it over their players. Are you kidding? You think they're high school kids that aren't getting sneakers, that aren't getting money? You think Bronny James in high school had to pay for anything anywhere he went? He didn't have a new pair of sneakers every time? Look back, there's a great book. It's called Sneaker Wars. And it talks about what the rivals from Sonny Vaccaro from Nike, and then the people from Adidas, and even the one of the best stories was when Michael Jordan was coming along, and how crazy Phil Knight went to get Michael Jordan to sign with them.
That sounds great.
It's not about sports, fellas. It's about the money. Follow the money.
Yeah.
And if I could just quick comment.
Yeah, you good.
I truly believe that because of the money, sports isn't what it used to be. The passion, the drive, the mentality to just win everything. I feel like over time, because certain players weren't getting like the money that they're asking for, they all of a sudden would just leave and or just mess up the league in a way. So I definitely agree with you, especially with college as well. There's a lot of kids coming out of high school who are actually joining high school level leagues for a certain salary, which is called OT. I don't know if you're familiar.
Right,
Professor.
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, so you have all those players are high school players. All of them are high school players, and they're playing for a salary of $300K. I think. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
But I just think that they're playing with the mentality that, oh, if I'm playing basketball, I'm getting money.
Well, remember also, they have to declare that they won't go to college.
Exactly. And then that's where, I don't think we haven't seen a good player come out of college since who was the last guy? I mean, the only person that comes to mind would be like LeBron.
Right.
Coming straight out of high school. So yeah, I really think that in today's game, especially in the NBA basketball level, it's definitely like a pay to win situation, or it's all about just money.
Well, you reach a comfort level. What I don't understand from these guys is, how much money do you need? You can't spend $100 million in your lifetime. And one of the best 30 for 30 specials was Broke. They talk about how many people are broke.
Yeah, it's a real big thing. I would say that the guy that comes to mind, remember that Professor, the guy that played with LeBron that's now homeless?
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Exactly.
Yeah, like that's crazy. You're an NBA level player, played on Boston, played with LeBron, and now he's homeless.
But well, you know what? He never had money, and he doesn't know how to deal with money. Luther Wright from Seton Hall signed with Utah for $13 million. Okay. His money was gone in 2 years. Mother gets a house, brother gets a house. At one point, Luther Wright was living in a trailer. And then he was in an institution in Cedar Grove. He was frostbitten. He went to the hospital and they cut his toes off from $13 million. Now, I know him personally. He was a great kid. He was 6'11". He did not want to play basketball. Wow. He wanted to be a DJ. And how crazy is this? There was a parade for him in Irvington. He played in Elizabeth when they won a state championship. I know because I drove him home.
Wow.
Oh, that's crazy.
So it's been going on for a long time. You know, we make it too important. We make it too important. Look at the guy. Look at the guy did the other day with his son, who's a wrestler. Comes out of the stands and starts fighting with people on the other side.
Oh yeah, I saw that. It was terrible.
And they end up getting arrested. What is wrong with people? First of all, he wore a tank top to a regional wrestling tournament, and he's got an MMA background.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, no.
It's gotta be about the kids. And don't understand those parents, Zach, but don't let them push you around.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I appreciate that. But the last thing I would probably say is that just to keep in NBA type of way, the trade. Quick minute or two. What is your thoughts with the trade? And do you think all these trades moving these guys, these big head guys like Luka, Anthony Davis, is it good for the league? Or is it just kind of snowballing like everything else is snowballing with money, with this, that, and the other thing?
Well, I don't think it's good for the league. Okay. Number one, for fans, you develop an interest in fans and fandom by watching your players. Look what happened in Dallas when Luka was signed. People dropped their season tickets. Now, Dallas might be better having the Brow in the center. They might even be better. I think that Luka's going to make a difference on the Lakers. I think they're now a team to make the playoffs. But, you know, this reminds me of when LeBron went to Miami with Chris Bosh. They try to go and make a troika. They want to have three guys at some place. And you look around the league, that's where the movement has been. You know, everybody moves. Go back. Everybody's looking now at Oklahoma City. You realize at one time they had the Beard, Westbrook, and Durant?
Yep.
And because they didn't want to share the basketball. I mean, Durant is unbelievable. He's the top scorer in the Olympics ever. Russell Westbrook has more double-doubles than anybody who played the game since Oscar Robertson. And the Beard, oh my God. But they all left. And now OKC is back. And the last thing I'll say is I never remember his name, but the guy with three initials is probably the best player in the league.
SGA?
Oh my
Gilgeous Alexander, the Canadian freak.
I mean, John Morant can do more crazy things, but this guy is unbelievable. And you're going to see a transition now. The best guys, LeBron is phasing out. It's Luka. I mean, forget the guy who plays for Cleveland, Matthews.
Oh, no, Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell. This guy is unbelievable. The league he's gonna own the league in a little while.
Oh yeah. I like the way he's been playing, but
and so is SGA. The league is gonna go to those guys. I can't even imagine what their salaries are gonna be.
Oh, it's gonna be ridiculous. If Juan Soto is making $750 in the MLB, we're and I don't know, LeBron is making what, like 280 plus, 250. They're gonna give like a $350 million, $400 million contract very soon. 500 maybe is coming down the line. it's just going to keep getting up and up and up and up. I don't know. Do you think the last thing I'll say, Professor, before we'll end the show, do you think we'll ever see a $1 billion contract? We're close to it with Juan Soto at $800 million. So
you know what? I think at some point you're going to see LeBron, if he stays, his next contract is going to be part ownership of the Lakers.
ooh.
Wow. That is actually not it. That's
You
actually
know what?
not even bad.
Instead of giving them billions and billions, make them a 10% owner. Look at Brady. Brady owns, like, I don't know the percentage of
I think it's like 4-5% of the
but of the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, Las Vegas, yeah.
They're going to have to, they can't pay billions, okay? They can't, because they can't keep, one of the reasons that the games are terrible is because they play 82 games. You cannot, on your body, play 82 basketball games, especially not back-to-back. You can't play in Boston, and then the next day you have to play late in New York. And people don't understand. There's an NBA rule. You have to be in the city you're playing in the night before. So if you're playing in Boston, okay, and you go double overtime, whatever, and it ends at 12 o'clock, you're going to the airport because you're playing next day in New York. You can't say, well, we'll rest up and we'll take the plane tomorrow. No way.
No.
Because what if the weather is bad? All of those people at the arena don't get paid. They have to redo the schedule. And I don't think people understand that. When you ever go on a plane ride, you think you could play a basketball game when you get off?
No, it's a lot of fatigue. There's a lot of fatigue.
I'll try it, but I don't think I'm going to be any good.
You'll always be good, Zach.
Oh, I appreciate that, Professor. But other than that, that'll be pretty much it, guys, for the show.
Right.
Again,
Appreciate it.
Professor McCarthy jumping on.
Enjoyed it.
All right. And then again, guys, I'm your host, Zach Jackson. Here's our co-host, Irv, Professor McCarthy again. We are powered by StreamYard, where StreamYard makes
Irv, nice to meet you, buddy.
We're here on Recap
Likewise.
Season 7, Episode 5. I'll catch you guys later for Wednesday with Billy Hinkley. Catch you guys later. Peace.
Out.
Bye.